everyone, and welcome back to another episode of You Missed It. Today, we're doing my pick, last but hopefully not least, and I have chosen The Rocketeer, which, in my opinion, is an underrated superhero movie. It was released in 1991, however, it had been in production since 1983 and trapped in development hell for that entire time before it finally got released. It stars Billy Campbell, Jennifer Connelly, Alan Arkin, Timothy Dalton, Paul Sorvino, Terry O'Quinn, and several others in smaller bit parts. It's about a stunt pilot who stumbles across top secret technology in the form of a jetpack invented by Howard Hughes. Antics ensue as it turns out Nazi spies are mixed up in all this and want to steal a jetpack and mass produce it as wartime technology. Now, this is based on an 80s comic book character by Dave Stevens. The comic book was released in 1982. It was the screenplay was written by Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo, and the movie was directed by Joe Johnston, who had previously done Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and would later go on to do Jumanji, October Sky, and the first Captain America movie, which makes a lot of sense.
He also did Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did he actually?
The best Jurassic Park.
Yeah. He also didn't he do the Wolfman?
He might have, actually.
He did.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he did. The more recent one.
Yeah.
But at any rate, this movie had a $40 million budget and barely made it back, with a mere $46.7 million at the box office. So plans for sequels pretty quickly fell by the wayside at those results. But it's still a movie that I really enjoy. I hadn't seen it for years prior to today, so I was happy that it's still held up, in my opinion, in the respect that it's an extremely entertaining film. It's campy, it's pulpy, it's an over-the-top depiction. The film is set in the 1930s, I should say, late 1930s, and it's an over-the-top depiction of that time period. It's definitely not meant to be interpreted as a period piece. It's just kind of a swashbuckling, almost action-adventure story that's just moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and a lot happens, and it's zany and fun, and I really like it. But let's see what the rest of you think. In this roundtable discussion, we'll be moving to my left. Zacho, let's hear your thoughts.
All right. Well, like you, I'd seen it before too, but not in a million years, so it was kind of a new movie, in a lot of regards. I remember some things like the cafe scenes and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, I remember, these and stuff. Not a lot I can really say. It's kind of like what you said. It's an entertaining movie. It's a fun family film for all ages. So it's a good product for Disney for sure. Very entertaining. It's too bad more people didn't see it. I love all the era stuff, but they don't also kind of throw a lot of it in your face. Same with the superhero thing too. Because you would think, oh, it's like a superhero film that's constantly throw superhero tropes and superhero ideas kind of in your face the whole time. But in a lot of ways, it doesn't feel like a superhero movie sometimes too, which I also kind of like. It's grounded until that climax, which shit just goes crazy.
They just no holds barred
there.
Where, spoilers, I guess, but, you've had 16 years to see this movie,
yeah.
So, basically the end scene, well, actually, no, the final sequence is a battle aboard a Zeppelin in midair, which is pretty cool, but there's a final sequence to that, which involves a three-way Tommy gun battle between Nazis, the FBI, and LA gangsters.
Did the FBI even have Tommy guns? Was that
no? That was not a Tommy gun.
Yeah, everyone
had.
No,
one.
in the movie, but I'm talking about in
real life.
Did the FBI in the late 1930s all have Tommy guns?
It was like a gun of choice.
Yeah, it's the streets of the 1920s and 30s.
I didn't know they had even the feds had Tommy guns. I thought they had something.
The only
else.
way to compete against them, against the mafia
if you're shooting
and the
with pistols, you're not going to do very well against machine guns and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're going to be mowed down.
Yeah, it was a very popular gun.
But, going back to what I was saying, though, I do like the styles and everything in this movie, too. It kind of sets, the era and everything that you're in. And, I like how they kind of tie Howard Hughes into it, too. How, a great deal of the movie, deals with flight. The main character, he's a pilot and things like that. And it gets wrapped up with him later on and stuff, which is also pretty neat too. But yeah, like I was saying, there's not really a lot of like observations. I mean, I guess I like the cast too. I mean, I thought everybody was pretty good. Billy Campbell and Jennifer Connelly and
I forgot how enjoyable Alan Arkin was in this movie.
Alan Arkin, I mean, he if he's good, he's good, right? And he is very enjoyable for sure. But yeah, you should see it.
Cool. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo that. I don't have a lot to say about the film, just because it was it was enjoyable. So it's one of those films where I feel like it's completely inoffensive. There's no way that you'd anything you can really be mad at the film in any way. It's just a straight enjoyment from start to finish. And it's like over the top nature. It kind of helps it be fun. Helps make it helps bring up the enjoyment, I think, just because like it's ridiculous with including Nazis like out of nowhere, out of left field. I love that. I think that's great. That's a lot of fun. It's very Wolfenstein-esque. It's very it's like it's just making a caricature of Nazi era Germany. So it's fun. I liked it a lot. The characters were all interesting in their own ways. They were all they were all entertaining. So I mean, it's a hard film for me to it's a hard film for me to say too much about, because I didn't there are a few things that I liked, which I will point out, but in terms of anything I disliked, like nothing really at all. But I didn't love everything a lot. Like there's nothing I really loved besides maybe the Nazi inclusion of Nazis, because I thought that was pretty great. But I liked everything. For the most part. So I really enjoyed, as Zach had already mentioned this, but I really enjoyed how I thought they were really going to push heavily into this whole Rocketeer persona. They really didn't. Like
they're probably saving that for the sequels.
But I guess that would make sense, yeah, because it seemed like they were really pushing for a sequel at the end there, right? So but no, I like that though. It was a much more story about this guy and his circumstance, and it was a more personal story, which I kind of wasn't expecting, and I liked it. I mean, I didn't want it to go over the top into all this, because it was a pretty basic guy straps on a rocket and now he can go fight crime, I guess. That's what I thought it was going to be. Oh, now he's going to become like a small-time superhero of some kind. And I'm glad he didn't, because it ended up being a better story for that. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fun ride. I think that it's worth watching. I don't think that you need to like put it on your all-time must-see list, but I think if you do get a chance to see it, like it's on TV or something, it's worth a watch.
I also forgot to point out, too, that I also liked it when pre-2015 Jack McQuiston showed up in the movie.
Oh.
I'm lost.
The really tall guy with the fedora.
So if you just put prosthetics on
like,
Jack.
That's Jack.
Oh
my God.
I was like, man, if they remade this, I could play that role.
Yeah. I was trying to be quiet the whole time because you were kept making references to who the character was, and I was like, fuck, I hope he doesn't say Jack, because I'm not going to be able to say it on the podcast. But you didn't, so I was like, yeah.
There was times where, like, there was a time where he walks into that club, I'm like, dude, duck.
I thought it was going to be like a Star Wars Episode 4 thing where he walks into it and smacks his head.
Yeah. Just doink.
Well, you notice in the South Seas Club when they're under, they're going to the big fish. Cliff takes Jenny aside and they hide under the plants, and he bonks his head right before he starts talking to her. I'm pretty sure that wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
Good little moments.
Yeah. I guess. Sorry.
Sorry. No, I was about to move.
Yeah,
along,
no,
I'd
wrapped up. Like, yeah, no.
All right, sounds good. Alex, you're up.
I liked it. I was entertained from start to finish. I had seen this film in the theater back when it came out in 1991, although I don't remember a thing about it. So it was like watching a new film for the first time, which was fine because, like I said, I was entertained from start to finish. There wasn't anything that really stood out, there wasn't any one-liners the rocket itself seemed to be just a thing to get from point A to point B. You know, it wasn't like Batman or Superman, like you were saying, Andrew, where it took on a life of its own or it became a persona.
It was just a tool, really.
Yeah, it was just a tool, and that's fine, because I think that helped the main character break out from where he was, because he was just a pilot at that point. So the rocket at least helped him a little bit with perhaps courage, because I don't think he had faced off with Nazis or turncoats or anything like that before. I really liked a lot of the shots in the film. I think the director of photography did a great job. Can't remember his name, but great job. There were a lot of the color schemes, especially when they were out flying the planes in the desert, and then also in the club as well, that reminded me of Temple of Doom and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
That's funny that you say that. Joe Johnston was an art director on those movies.
Ah, that would make sense.
Yeah, he worked for ILM, and he worked on all those, early 80s, George Lucas movies, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and I was going to mention that. Yeah, no, there's a big Indiana Jones feel throughout this whole movie.
No, I agree with what you're saying. It's knowing that before watching it, it's like, oh yeah, definitely, I totally see it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, a lot of good flavors of that, and maybe the reason that it only made back a little bit more than its budget is because it was 1991, and I think the culture was starting to shift away from those kinds of movies. That's just my guess. I can't say for sure, but there have been so many movies like that at that time. There was Hook. There was, I think, The Phantom.
Billy Zane. That was after, though.
No, that was 94.
96.
96?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm thinking of something else with...
Was it The Shadow?
Alec Baldwin, The Shadow.
That's
Yeah,
what it
that was 93.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit after.
Yeah.
But films like that... Dick Tracy is another one.
There's a lot of Dick Tracy,
Yeah.
especially with me playing in that role. That he was the most Dick Tracy looking.
Oh, with the prosthetics.
Yeah,
and stuff.
what's funny is both
Yeah.
of those movies were released by Disney within like a year of each other. Because I think Dick Tracy came out in 1990.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so... and all the super movies that were coming out around that time were kind of like the aftermath of Batman in '89, because then the year after that you had Darkman, and then you had a year after Rocketeer was Batman Returns, and just it was The Crow was not too long after that.
Yeah.
So most of superhero films around that time were leaning towards the dark, gritty. You got to do Batman because Batman was enormously successful. So I can sort of see maybe that's why most superhero fans weren't drawn to The Rocketeer, because it's Disney. Disney was just starting to get some credibility back with because they were just starting the Disney Renaissance. They had only released Little Mermaid before The Rocketeer, and then Beauty and the Beast came out that same year. So Disney was not up there. So I don't think they could command the money that, say, maybe if this was in different hands, it could have made a little bit more money.
Yeah.
But I think with the direction with most superhero films are going, I think I can sort of see why this kind of just barely made its bunch. But anyways,
But I would definitely recommend seeing it. I do think it's underrated. I do think it should have made a bit more money. Definitely give it a watch. Absolutely.
Cool. Sounds good. And last but not least, we have Jack, who also, like Andrew, had not seen this film before. So
And starred in the film.
And he was in it,
yeah, I was in it. Yeah. No, I like.
yeah, and your hat starred many times. I saw it on many different people.
I'm a big fan of wearing fedoras. For those of you who don't know, but
And we're talking like the cool 1930s, 40s gangster style, not like the 2000s douchey ones.
Right.
pretty much, yeah.
Wide brims for the win.
Indeed. Anyways, so yeah, I hadn't seen this movie before. I had heard about it. I've seen this on many underrated lists, and people always mention it, so I always heard about it. So I intended to watch it at some point, but now I have. I thought it was decent. I'm probably the least excited of everyone here about it. I thought it was well shot. It was a typically paced film. Like, it didn't have it take any twist turns until like the very, very end, when it just went insane. But more specifically, my biggest gripe with the movie, I wouldn't say it's a gripe, but it's sort of was the romance between the two lead characters. I thought that was very weak. I thought they had little to no chemistry. I didn't care. I thought the movie kind of stopped whenever it went to those two, especially in the beginning. Their whole date and dining room scene, I'm just like, can we just get on from this? I am not interested. I actually thought Jennifer Connelly was actually a bit of a bore throughout the whole movie. I think out of all the things I've seen her done, I think this is kind of not her strongest. And I also think the lead actor, I can sort of see why he is the only one out of this entire group of actors who didn't really go as far as say everyone else did, because everyone else, Alan Arkin, the actor who played Paulie, I've even recognized the actor who played Howard Hughes. He looks so familiar. And
Terry O'Quinn.
Terry O'Quinn.
Oh, what else? I don't recognize that name.
I just don't remember. He's been in stuff though.
I know, but he's the lead actor is the only one who I can't name another movie he's been in.
Well, because he's done. I checked his IMDb, and he's done. It looks like he's just done TV before and since. So it's not Billy Campbell's not exactly a household name.
Yeah. So I thought that he was not. I can sort of see another reason why I don't think the movie kind of held on to an audience, because I thought he was kind of forgettable, in my opinion. I didn't think he was that memorable as a character. I just thought, he's just going through the motions. Okay, you see his arc. Yeah, he's. I don't know. It's just I thought the whole emotional conflict of the movie was between him and his girlfriend, and that was just. As I said, it was very weak, so it was hard to me to be invested in his emotional journey throughout this whole movie, because I just thought it's as simple as they're not communicating well with each other. That's tired. They didn't do anything with it, so I didn't really care for their relationship. I did enjoy it when it got more about fighting the Nazis, fighting the Rocketeer stuff with the FBI and the mafia.
It's just getting crazy.
So when it went to all that, I thought that was pretty interesting. And actually, my favorite part of the whole movie is him actually getting the mafia to turn on the main bad guy because he's a Nazi.
Right.
I was like, that is amazing.
But the Nazis are like the bad guy. They were like fair game for anything. It's like in video games, they're the thing that you could kill endlessly. They're basically zombies. Nobody cares. And everybody hates Nazis.
I hate Nazis more than zombies, probably.
Yeah, Nazis are like the eternal bad guy. They're the target. They'll turn anybody into a good guy.
Pretty much. And I like how all three, like that whole scene had like 3 Deus Ex Machinas in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, boom. Oh, the mafia is now on their side. All right. The Nazis are here. And it's like, what?
Dude.
And then there's a Hindenburg, then there's a blip coming out. And you're like, oh, yeah, that thing that silently came out of nowhere and such. So, yeah, it's just all that. I was like, okay. And then it just kind of got crazy from there, which, like I said, it was an entertaining movie. Like I wasn't bored with it. I didn't think it was bad or anything like that. But I don't know. I thought the two main characters, Jennifer Connelly and the Rocketeer actor, I thought they were not interesting at all. So it kind of lowered my appreciation for them in general. But everyone else, the side characters, were enjoyable. They're playing it up because they're in a Disney movie.
Yeah.
So their acting was of Disney movie quality, in my opinion, especially around that time, where it's a wink a little, not too serious. So, but that can work, and we've seen it work fine in other Disney live action movies and even cartoons and any family movies around that time. So I can't fault them on that, but I don't know. The lead two I thought were just dull. So that's kind of my biggest gripe with the film. But I think
Nazis make everything better.
The Nazis make everything better.
Nazis
Makes
make every movie better.
Yeah.
Everyone
Every piece of media.
I remember
Keeps it from getting stale, I guess. Just needs to. Nazis are the new spice. Just sprinkle some in when you need a little conflict.
I gotta admit, hey, you know what? Joking aside, I have to admit, every time the Nazis have showed up in something, I've been like entertained. So,
that gets you emotionally invested in it.
Yeah, I'm like,
Kill them.
Nazis, yeah, because they're always a cartoon. Like even you know what? That's a great segue because He said he directed the first the first Avenger, first
The very-
Captain
the
American
very
movie,
first Captain
which is
American
like I'm not a fan of.
Right.
However, the inclusion of the Nazi element of that, they were they were like similarly cartoonish actually. And that is probably the most fun I had in the first Captain America, like where they like transition to Red Skull and he's just
Right.
like in the corniest like German accent. He's just like, "You are failing," and he just screams it or whatever. It makes every movie better. It makes every movie better.
That one screaming Nazi on the blimp was just like he
good.
not there for the whole movie, but every time the camera was on him, he was just like, "What are you doing?"
The guy with the glasses?
I'm pretty sure they borrowed
Yeah.
the same wire-rimmed round glasses from Raiders of the Lost
I was
Ark.
thinking
Yeah,
the
no,
same thing,
that's
the
the
whole
whole
movie.
thing. That's the whole thing. You could just it reeks of Raiders and Last Crusade and all that. Just even with the inclusion of the Nazis, how they're almost like the third act,
Yeah.
villain and all that. I will kind of give. I remember when the Nazis did show up, but you're kind of like, what the hell? And when the blimp showed up, you're like, what the hell? Why is this here? How did it get here?
Yeah.
And I did mention that in the beginning of the movie, when they're in the movie theater, they see, a little film reel
Well, I
of
didn't
showing the
get
blimp.
that, to be honest.
But that's, I think, a problem with the movie is that you completely forgot that Nazis were a thing in this movie until she finds that secret room.
No,
and
but
then you're
like-
oh yeah, and then it just and
Yeah, it does come kind of out of left
it comes out of left field, and even though it was set up, how it was constructed and paced, it felt tacked on.
It was set up, but I was confused. So when I saw that film, I didn't mention anything, but I was confused, like, because it's like, oh, there's this Zeppelin that's traveling around the world and hitting all these cities, this Nazi Zeppelin, and it's like, wait, what? Am I missing something?
That did happen though.
Did that, like, because this
That's
was
how-
19... Or it's just like, I needed, like, to remind myself,
Yeah.
what is this history lesson here? Because, what?
Yeah, no,
Is this like a random blank that I have where there was this Zeppelin, this Nazi Zeppelin in 1938 that just, like, went to Los Angeles? Like, is this a thing? Like,
Well, there was the Hindenburg, which was a Nazi blimp, and that.
well, I
burnt
knew
down
the
in-
Hindenburg, but
that
this
was
is
2
not...
years before.
This is
the
not
movie,
that, though.
Still, but the whole
The
thing
idea.
about a blimp, though, the Nazi blimp coming
that
to
was-
America, that was a thing.
But that's
Right.
a big. But I see that part. That's what bugged me. So it was the fact that I was like, "What?" That's why I kept asking, "What year is this?" Because you're saying 1938. I'm like, how the hell would a Nazi blimp just be okay entering the U.S. at that time?
Well, they weren't at war
Yeah, they
yet.
weren't even a part
They
of
weren't
it.
at war, but tensions were high then.
Not as high as they became, say, the following year. Like you got to think about
Yeah,
this. Like this
39
is
is when
2
they kicked
years
off.
after the Olympics in Germany.
Right.
Yes, but that
where
was
they
still
all
it
attend-
was still tense.
Oh, it was still
during the-
tense.
That's the thing. It was they would not just let. That's not something that I would imagine at that time would be okay. You say the Hindenburg, but the Hindenburg was early enough that I don't think. I don't know. Anyway, it kind of seems pointless because I guess
It's a Disney movie.
I'm getting way too into the. I guess the details don't matter as much
Right.
in this. But it still felt weird because in 1938, I just couldn't picture America being cool with a Nazi Zeppelin coming into the States. Like, not in 38. Like, there was way too much. There was still tension at that time. I don't think that it would have worked. And it was just weirdly confusing. So I'm like, wait, why are there Nazi troops here? Why is there a Zeppelin here?
Oh, the troops!
What the hell's
the
going
troops
on?
is complete BS. That would never fly. That was completely. This is like
Well-
okay. This is turned into a cartoon.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like though.
Well, yeah, you
Well,
expect
it's-
us to believe they all
yeah.
fit on that blimp? I don't think
Well,
so.
once it all happened at once, I was like, oh, fuck it. This is fun. Like, whatever.
that's
I
what
don't
they were
care
doing,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was also surprised that the blimp that they were on still had hydrogen in it, even though it's 2 years after the Hindenburg, where they made that change because, well, it blew up.
That's why.
Oh, that's what bothered you.
that little tidbit was like, I even
Well, that
mentioned-
makes sense because it's like, yeah, if that's what blew it up, then you might, either
Change it to
don't
helium.
or change it to helium.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
Like that whole event is killed the blimp traveling
Yep.
cross country business. It just takes one.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
kill a
the
ton of people.
humanity.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then what I was gonna say. Oh, actually, one thing I thought that to a credit to this film is I thought a lot of the special effects still thought held up pretty decently. this is like just as before CGI was coming in.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of green screen.
Yeah, there were a
stuff
couple
like that,
green
but-
screen moments that were pretty obvious, but it's
a time.
Yeah, exactly. It's 91, so
To-
you take what you can get, and it didn't take me out of the moment.
No, and that's the thing. Like, even though you can kind of tell it wasn't so glaringly bad, like I've seen way worse blue screen effects today
Yep.
than in then. You
Flash
know.
Titans.
Okay.
Oh God. Even movies like the one I always go to is The Expendables when they're on
Yeah.
they're on a plane and they're looking outside and you're just like, wow, like
you're
could
not.
you not composite that a little better together? Whatever happened to just pointing out in the sky and aiming the camera higher? Real sky is cheaper than blue screen, don't you know?
Okay. So there's something I want to mention because I had to fact check it because I didn't want to talk out my ass. But before that, I agree though that the special effects actually weren't that bad in this. I thought it it was pretty good, especially for film back in '91. Like yeah, it's not like awesome, like it's not going to be super great by modern standards, obviously, but it wasn't a sore thumb. It was perfectly serviceable. It didn't draw attention to itself. It was good. In 1938, Germany occupied Austria. So yeah, like, oh, no tension, but like they straight up like, no, they were aggressors in 1938. So like it was just something that really bothered me up until it went full blown ridiculous. Like prior to that, I was like, the fuck is going on? Is this like alternate history? Is this Wolfenstein the movie? Like, are we doing alternate history? Because 38, yeah, totally. That makes no sense. But then yeah, they went crazy and it's like, oh, well, who cares, right? But yeah, no, I just had to fact check that because I'm like, well, you guys are acting like everybody was like hunky-dory in Germany at the time and like the United States didn't give a shit, but they did.
Well, the United States, they were...
I know they didn't jump... no, I know what you mean, like Pearl Harbor, if that's what you're talking about. However, they still wouldn't have been cool. Like, Germany was still an aggressor nation at that time. Like they had occupied another country at that point. So they were not on good terms. Like nobody would want like somebody who had invaded another country to have their Zeppelins come in and just like fly around your country. You know, that it's kind of not cool and you're kind of worried about what their plans are and what they're going to do. You don't want them getting reconnaissance. There's a reason why everybody else in the movie was like Nazis, fuck them, right? Because they're not, because they had that reputation already, right? So, like, granted, that was the very beginning of Hitler's Nazi Party, but, like, sorry to get into, like, history here, but, like, that was the beginning year, basically, of the Nazi Party really coming into its own, but people still knew, and that's why, even in the context of the film, they were like, oh yeah, Nazis are bad guys. Period.
Yeah, and I think going on actually while you're talking, remind me. The tensions were pretty high around that time because it's kind of what led to the panic, helped contribute to the panic after the War of the Worlds radio broadcast.
Oh yeah,
because that happened in '38, and a lot of people are like, "It's the Germans! The Germans are coming! They're with the aliens and all that."
Right.
Yeah.
And
That was 38 as well?
That was 38 as well. Yeah.
Nice.
No, yeah, 38 was a big year.
38 was a fucked up year.
Yeah, it was. And then 39 got really fucked up.
Yeah.
Got real then.
Too real. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry to like, I just had to remember because it was just bugging me, man. Like, I don't know why that bugged me so much, but out of everything in the film, that bugged me again until the end. But like, for like a good portion, like that movie, you mentioned that going back to that movie that they showed, that to me was just the most confusing thing I saw, but I just let it go. Like as soon as this was over, they finished showing that movie, I was like, whatever, I'll just forget about it.
Like, here's some exposition. Wow. Sorry, here's some exposition that you don't know is exposition until it's time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, surprise. Remember this?
Like, oh yeah, I forgot about the guy in a rocket and the Nazis taking over. Oh yeah, blimp.
Yeah, and that blimp taking out the Hollywood land sign.
That was
the land from Hollywood.
That was the second favorite thing. I'm like, that's great. Just the little subtle things.
Again, like that's what made it fun. I think that part of the movie, it was that third act that actually made it fun. Like up until that point, it was okay. Like it was an okay movie, but then it just like became full blown ridiculous fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of just like cast off all encumbrances.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, we're just gonna go
go
for it here.
bonkers. Yeah.
No holds barred.
I also just realized that Jennifer Connelly hits a lot of people with pots.
She does,
In
yeah.
the
She's
phases
probably
of
she
the
delivers a
movie.
lot of concussions in this movie.
Yeah,
Did-
it's crazy.
With like
Vases.
Like vases, yeah. Like, but the only person I remember hitting with like a pan, like maybe not I think it was a pot or a pan, was the diner,
Millie.
the lady at the diner, right?
Yeah,
that's
she
right.
just like
Her.
whacks
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
over
yeah,
No,
the
there
head.
was Jack.
No,
I mean,
no,
she
no.
hit Jack with the
No,
thing at
when
the-
she wasn't even there, when they were looking for Cliff
Well, yeah,
and
she did that
the mob
too.
guys, there was that was the only time I think it was a pot though.
Yeah,
Like a
you're
pan
right.
or something.
It was
and
something different.
I laughed at that moment because it was so like, Stooges, Three Stooges kind of thing or whatever. Just like, you get over here, thunk.
It'll get the job done.
It was just kind of, man. I don't know.
There's a
Like,
lot
I
of
think
hitting
that
over the
stuff
head.
was fun.
A
Yeah.
lot of
is-
hitting over the head.
This is also the same like scene, I believe, in which the bad guys find Jenny's number scrawled
Yes.
on the
Yeah.
bulletin board there. I mean, any of us could have told her that it's 867-5309.
Oh.
Didn't have to go to all that trouble.
That's a good one.
I'm too young to make that reference, but I did anyway.
It's all good.
I wouldn't have made it.
Someone had to say it. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I thought Timothy Dalton was actually. I thought he was okay too.
Really?
Yeah.
So you just didn't like any of the performances? That's pretty much what I'm
I
getting
thought he
from
was
you.
Well,
like just
except for,
hamming it up. Though.
Yeah,
thought it
I
was
like
funny.
Timothy Dalton and I like Jennifer. Like that's the thing.
Except
like,
for
the people,
Alan Arkin.
The people in this movie, it's like they're people that I just kind of like in general. So like they can kind of just smile and wave, and I'm like, right on, man.
Oh, like
That's Jennifer Connelly and Timothy Dalton.
I don't know. It was like I don't know. It just nothing I thought really made him stand out as like, oh yeah, he's a great villain. It's like he's okay. He's serviceable. That's about it.
Yeah, he was all right. He could say Schnell really well.
Schnell.
Yeah, he wanted everybody to hurry.
Yeah, Schnell.
He really practiced that line.
Yeah.
One line.
And
I
his
mean,
last
he
few
didn't
lines
want to
in
be the
English with
typical
the
Nazi who
German
says
accent,
nine
that's
all the
pretty
time,
forced.
so he just picked a different German word.
So I applaud him for that. To be fair.
Yeah, Schnell, right?
Because I mean, 9, it's just overused. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it wasn't quite the level of, Downfall,
Oh, God.
Hitler.
That's I was gonna
Scream
say the one that
Fest,
gets
but, you
memed
know.
all the time. That one's great.
Great movie, but that one scene.
Hitler
man.
reacts to fill
Hitler
in the
can
blank.
react to anything. They had no idea what they had opened up there for the internet, but I'm glad they
Absolutely
did.
did not.
No. Actually, I did watch that scene like 2 days ago of the real
actual
thing.
scene?
The
The real one?
actual
Oh,
one,
okay.
yeah.
You should watch the movie. I own it.
I
kinda
want to watch
do.
the movie. Yeah, I actually hear it's a very good movie.
Yeah,
it's
oh,
too
it's
bad
great.
that the internet has ruined it.
Pretty much.
That scene. It's supposed to be like the best scene in the movie too.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's a really good scene, but there's a lot in it. Anyways, this isn't about downfall.
Sorry. Well, I mean, it almost is.
Almost. but
Random
not quite.
Nazis.
That's the end
It's the-
of World War II. This is
the
like
beginning.
No, it's
beginning.
the other side of this story.
Yeah.
We're seeing it from the other point of view now.
Very different.
That's right. We have to understand Nazis somehow,
What did you think of the music, Alex?
I think James Horner was a good pick as the composer. A really good pick. There's a scene in Neville's house after Jennifer Connelly has broken another vase over someone's head,
Right.
in this case Timothy Dalton's, and she sneaks out of the room, and it's when she sees Jack in the chair down below. If you listen to the soundtrack closely, you'll hear a few notes from an earlier film. I think it was 1983. It's called Brainstorm. Also composed by James Horner. Really good film.
Is that the one with Christopher Walken and
I believe so.
and Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
Right,
Nest.
right,
She's a
right.
good actor.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So James Horner, great pick. It's always a gamble with movies, like big budget movies, and I think for 1991, $40 million. I'd say that's getting into big budget territory. Maybe I'm wrong because I have no idea what budgeting is
Well,
like.
that-
91.
91, that would have been.
Oh, that would have been
Yeah.
high because
Yeah.
91 had Terminator 2, which was the first movie to ever have a budget over 100 million.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 40 million was big money. It's the equivalent, I guess, if say today would be about 80 to 100 even today, I would think.
Yeah, it's probably,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
it seems about right.
Most like up. Big budget blockbusters are always up in the 200 to 300 million.
Yeah,
budget
like
now.
as like a recent example, I think Blade Runner was like 150 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's a pretty good example because that was a big budget movie, like a modern big budget movie that would be in the same area where it wouldn't be like the highest of high, but it's like a big budget movie. So I think that's like a good parallel.
Just to give you another example, Jurassic Park, which came out 2 years later, their budget was 65.
Yeah,
And
that
they
would have
had
been
some
a high
CGI in there.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
budget
as well
all
as
those
the-
animatronics,
I was
those are
just going to
expensive.
say that. Yeah. What was the movie that Johnny Depp played Tonto in?
Lone Ranger.
Oh, Lone Ranger.
Okay,
Super expensive.
That was like
How
200
expensive?
million or something.
200 250.
And
Yeah.
it didn't make its budget back. So again, it's a gamble. It's a huge gamble, whatever you're doing. I think Billy Campbell was the right pick for the role because he looked the part.
Yeah.
I think in some scenes could have been faster. You know, like I
do you
hate
mean?
to do the George Lucas direction, but more energy.
Faster and more
That's-
intense.
Yeah, I think in some cases that's what it needed. But if you do that with every scene, then you can't stop and like listen or focus on something.
I do think you got a good point there. Where a couple scenes, you could have picked it up the pace a bit,
Just a little bit.
One scene actually I think comes to mind is the scene with Jennifer Connelly and Timothy Dalton in their bed the actor's bedroom, where he's basically luring him into hitting the vase over his head. That scene I thought went on for like 2 minutes too long. You know, the whole them talking back and forth, almost teasing, and her basically playing an idiot to him and all that. I was like, we know what she's going to do. She saw the Rocketeer. She saw that he was bad. You know, this doesn't really have to go on this long, you know. He could have, like, I think there was a little too much, like, him seducing her, where it was like the only time I got a little uncomfortable with him. I was like, he is a little creepy here, but at the same time, you're kind of like,
He's a Nazi, dude.
I know. Well, at that point, we kind of that's.
Oh, I
thing.
know we didn't know that, but like,
Well, no, we do know that because it was foreshadowed. It's like we know it's he's. If you remember the beginning with the whole Nazis, like he's a Nazi. You know that old trick of like the actor who's a spy.
Yeah,
You know we've seen that trope in a lot of movies. You know, so, yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do agree with your one point. You were commenting about Jennifer Connelly and Billy Campbell's chemistry, and I do agree that theirs was not as good as Billy Campbell's and Alan Arkin's. Like those two characters as friends, they had a great back and forth, a great rapport with each other, and I do agree that the relationship element of it was kind of a little bogged down. I would say it is the weakest.
it's probably
weakest part
it
of
seemed
the
like a
story.
means to
But
an
I
end.
don't feel like it drags the entire movie down though, because while it is, basically the catalyst of the movie is Cliff trying to make things up to Jenny and stuff. That quickly gets swept under the rug. I mean, naturally he's got to save her and stuff. Damsel in distress. It is the 30s and all, but I mean, I feel like that it quickly becomes swept up in all this like action and intrigue and honestly, that I didn't really let those elements. I didn't dwell on them at all. I didn't find that they kind of contributed to the overall feel or point of the film.
I don't know. I think it just kind of lowered my my investment in it a bit because I just didn't care for the two as much as say I would, you know, with the supporting characters. Like I liked the Alan Arkin character. I thought he was, you know, and he was entertaining. I thought the gangsters were fun. I don't know the actor's name, but I know what he has played in the past. Which
Paul
is
Sorvino.
Paulie.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
Otis Bigelow guy. I don't know the actor who played him, but his character is good too. It's all part of the show.
He's always like the same, like he's kind of like the same character in a lot of movies. He's always like the scum
He was
kind of
in
guy.
what was that Coen Brothers film? He's in a lot of Coen Brothers films actually. The one you wanted to show me, the gangster one.
Miller's Crossing.
Yeah. And
Another underrated movie.
Yeah. He's also in The Crow.
Yes.
Yeah, he was in the jeweler's store where he's like, "Is that gasoline I smell?"
I remember his face.
Yeah. No, he I think he's dead now though. Unfortunately, that actor.
It's all part of the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of Alan Arkin, I think Alan Arkin did a pretty decent impression of Alan Arkin. It was still in the beginning stages though. There's a certain emphasis that Alan Arkin puts on some words, just like
Yes.
Christopher Walken.
Sure.
So he was getting there, but he just didn't reach that level of it where he could say, "Ah."
Yeah, he was reserving that for Glengarry Glen Ross because he did that the same year. And he's in that too. He's like, "What am I doing? I'm just want to sell land." Yeah, no, he was enjoyable, and oh yeah, we got to talk about that the hangout where the dog place.
Oh my God, cocaine bulldog.
Yeah, pretty much. Just
That's what I'm
like
calling it.
that was the most terrifying joint I've.
I don't know what's
real
wrong with you
place,
guys. I
though.
thought that was the most fun looking place. Like, I want to eat
No,
there.
it's the
that
dog.
looks
No, the
awesome.
inside looked fine. and
No,
all
the
that.
outside is what draws me in. I want to go to that place.
No, it scares me, man. That dog just looking at you, going like, "You want some treats?"
The dog had a pipe in its mouth, okay?
Oh,
How
we know
could you
he's got
Yeah,
That's
oh, he's
there.
at the pipe, all right.
Yeah.
That explains the eyes.
Oh my god.
There's some good stuff.
Like
If they had that at Disneyland, I would, it'd be the most popular place there, man. It'd be
sure,
the most
yeah.
popular themed restaurant, okay?
If they could franchise it, or if the franchise the restaurants and the series, it could have been a chain just like Bubblegum Shrimp, you know?
Damn straight. That could have been the before Bubba Gump Shrimp. That could have been
Yeah.
the.
That's one thing that Disney hasn't done. They don't have their own like chain restaurant. I don't think so.
Do they not? Oh,
No.
Yeah, I guess
Disney?
not.
Like
Yeah,
they may
no.
have like it may be owned by a different company that company's owned by Disney, but you look at what company released Forrest Gump again?
aliens.
Wasn't like no, it wasn't like Universal or something like that.
Probably.
Paramount. I
Yeah, I
think.
was gonna
Okay,
say.
Paramount, yeah.
Paramount,
But
yeah.
even still, like Paramount, they got their own restaurant chain with Bubblegum Shrimp. They
Yeah.
got shit all over the U.S. and
Yeah.
even in Mexico. So
I don't think Disney cares.
Yeah, Disney's got,
They got
no
Marvel.
money problems.
They got
so-
they
Marvel.
got, they got Marvel, Star Wars, yeah. All
They
those
got
movies.
Disneyland, dude.
Yeah.
Little Mermaid fish sticks, anyone?
Oh my god, I
Oh,
would totally
boy.
eat those.
But think of the implications.
Yeah, because
think about that
if-
for 1 second.
if they were gonna franchise any restaurant, 100% it would have to be Pizza Planet.
Oh yeah.
Fucking Pizza Planet. I wanted that to be real so bad.
Yeah,
I still
me
to this
too.
day
I
want
would
that
totally
to be real.
go to a
I
Pizza
think there's a
Planet.
Pizza Planet
I was- no.
in Disney World.
No, well, maybe Disney World because I went to we were in Disneyland Paris and I saw it. I
was
saw
there.
there was a
Closed
Pizza
off.
Planet and it was closed off and I was like, I want to go to Pizza. Like I didn't give a shit
devastated.
about the rest of Disneyland. All I wanted to do was go to goddamn Pizza
I love that
Planet.
you're like in Paris of all places,
Yeah.
like the center of some of the finest cuisine in the world, and you're just like, I want to go to
Dude,
freaking Pizza Planet.
No, we ate at Chez Remy, but I would have rather eaten at Pizza Planet. Okay.
I'm with Andrew. I would want to go to that.
Pizza Planet's the best, and that's one of the best parts of that movie too. So, hands down, Pizza Planet.
Yeah.
Disney, you need to get on that shit.
It's more Pixar. Pixar's got to get on that shit.
Well, yeah, I mean they're kind of in
They're
bed
bed-
together,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
But then, yeah, it's just like, yeah, there's not a whole lot of big chains that I can think of that Disney could market off of that I'm surprised they haven't yet.
I'm gonna be honest. The only thing I knew about this movie going into it was because like speaking of Disneyland, I kind of got like a whirlwind of Disneyland experiences in the last little while.
Yeah.
Like the last year or two, I visited, well, just two of the parks, but even then, I'd been to Disneyland a lot in the last couple of years. And Tomorrowland, right? Because don't they have the Rocketeer mask there?
Oh,
I
shit,
think so.
they do. I think so.
Because that's the only thing I recognized when I saw the cover. I was like, that's a mask from Tomorrowland, like the thing. Like, is there? I thought Tomorrowland was already a movie that came out like way late. I'm confused.
Well, Tomorrowland is kind of based off of the New York Fair, isn't it? A little bit, showing like the future, and then the New York Fair was a big thing of like actually the whole Art Deco movement in the New York Fair was sort of a big push, and that style that you were talking about with like the crisp lines and all the layers of metal and copper and all that, it was
Yeah, it was very golden, coppery, like whole feel, and that mask was there too. Because I immediately recognized that. It looked very gosh, it's gonna bug me. It's like a character that has like a very similar featured mask as that. I'm trying to remember what it is, but it's like a certain like I'm not sure if it's a video game character or if it's like a film character
It
or
looks
animated.
vaguely like a Cyberman from Doctor Who.
Yes,
That helps, especially the older
maybe.
style ones.
That or maybe
Minus
even
the rudder.
maybe even like a Japanese, like an anime thing or something. Doesn't he look like something? Like,
Is it Ultraman?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's what it was. I was like,
Actually,
shit, I'm
yeah.
getting so many Ultraman
That's what it
vibes from
is.
this mask. Like,
Ultraman.
Yeah.
yeah,
good.
like it just looks so familiar. That seeing that mask, it just like was remembering so many different things. Like it just reminds me of a lot of different things. I'm not sure which came first or what.
Ultraman. But Ultraman.
Well, Ultraman would obviously be first,
Yeah.
but did that influence like all these different things? Like,
Oh, I don't know, and it's different colors and shit too. But yeah, dead on in terms of like how it looks and stuff.
Yeah.
I was gonna say aliens again, but that's what it looks like.
yeah.
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 Yeah, no, but I don't know. Just in terms of whether I think this movie is underrated.
Well, you said it barely made its budget, right?
It made 6.7 million in profit, which in movie dollars is not a lot.
Not to mention advertising and stuff too. Pretty much clears that because that's never included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the
But I feel
budget,
like it
so
kind of
it's a
just
flop.
got swept up in the barrage of mediocre to terrible superhero movies that came out the rest of the decade. Like
Yeah.
we mentioned, a Phantom. We also had Steel. We also had the Judge Dredd movie. Like we
Yeah.
just these.
Spawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, just these movies that I think most people would rather forget, and I feel like The Rocketeer kind of accidentally got forgotten along with them.
Yeah, like besides like all the early darker superhero movies with Batman, The Crow, and Darkman, it still wasn't the most profitable, franchise to do. Like I think there was the 1990 Captain America.
Oh God.
Which was only released in Europe because of how shitty it was, which is so ironic. A Captain America movie's not released in America.
Is that the one that was made in the 90s but looks like it was made in like the 60s?
Yes.
Correct. And then there was also Roger Corman's Fantastic Four
Oh, God.
as well. And just to give you an idea, like, yeah, this wasn't, money like it is right now. So, yeah, I'm surprised it was in development hell for that long, for for a comic that came out that year and stuff like that.
It's like, all right, comic book comes out next year. It's like, all right, let's make a movie. 8 years later, we finally make the movie.
Yeah, and Superman was dead around there. So yeah, the good-hearted superhero was, I think it's still dead, to be perfectly honest. Until like Wonder Woman, really, she was like the first one in a long time to be like, I want to
Pure.
do this because I want to help people.
Right.
Like even like actually, I just remembered this is technically a superhero-ish movie. Is The Mask,
Yeah.
which came out in
Yeah.
94. And that was probably one of the first very comedic, very funny superhero movies. So that one did gangbusters. Then again, Jim Carrey played a big help in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the comedy I think that drew everybody into that one, right?
Yeah, so it always had to be these little niche things or someone who you really knew, like Batman and all that. So I'm not surprised this didn't do
I
big
think
money.
it deserves to have made its budget with marketing. Like I think it deserved to make all its money back and then maybe a little bit, but I don't think it like if I were gonna like if I would say that I don't think it deserved to make a ton of money. Like it deserved its money back because it wasn't a bad film, and it sucks when films that are at least pretty good or okay don't make their money back, because it sucks. It disincentivizes people from trying different things, and so I like it when they make their money back, but I don't think it needed to be like making tons of money and get the sequel and everything like that. I don't think it needed to happen, but it was, like I said, it was fun for what it was.
Yeah, and like I said, my whole thing is like I'm not surprised it didn't do as well as maybe Disney had hoped for. I think it did as well as it was going to ever make, and also just based on the merits of the movie, I'm just like, yeah, no.
Well, and there's a couple factors too, and I mean, one of them is the same thing I said with A Simple Plan, which also actually made under its budget. Was that, I mean, you have a lead actor who nobody really knows, or nobody's really going to gravitate. And a lot of people do go to a movie when it stars someone who has some like a repetition and stuff like that. They have a reputation.
Reputation.
Box office draw. Too.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Credentials.
So, someone that they like, that they recognize, that they want to go see. So if it's an unknown, then it's kind of like, oh, you got to have other reasons to go, right? And then the other thing, which I think you had kind of nailed, was the whole Batman thing. The fact that people were looking for dark superhero movies, and this was a very light, kind of superhero movie by Disney and stuff. And so I don't know if people were necessarily looking for that at the time. That also could have been another thing. And as for the development hell stuff, I don't know if you know anything like about that, but I mean, it could have been kind of something similar to, like, say, Freddy vs. Jason, where it's a lot of legal bullshit that they get kind of tied over, and it just kind of sets it back, because that was like over a decade.
Yeah, I didn't look into the details of that. That was just some really quick research that I did before this episode. But I mean, yeah, it'd be worth looking into more. I would be curious to know kind of what was going on behind the scenes. Always has a good story to tell.
I actually one other thing that going off of what you were saying about factors, and I had mentioned that Disney was not, they had just done Little Mermaid, and that was their first big, we got to pay attention to Disney again. But still, they weren't, they had just, all the live action films up to that point were even not, they were more direct to DVD or very kid friendly ones. Whereas this one is definitely more for the whole family.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of plays a big part, and actually with development hell too, because if it was, they started developing it in 1983, that whole 80s part was Disney almost going bankrupt.
Oh yeah.
And them figuring out their own, that was the lowest point in Disney history at that point. Not getting in good box office returns. Their movies have subpar quality at best.
We're talking the time period when Black Cauldron lost out to the Care Bears movie
that was,
in the box office.
That was just in 85. So, and even like their better movies that came out around there, like The Great Mouse Detective or Oliver and Company or anything like that they weren't doing well compared to other films that were coming around that time. Like Oliver and Company was released around the same time as The Land Before Time.
Yeah.
And which one do we remember better?
Exactly.
The Land Before Time, which
Definitely.
That had a million sequels.
Yeah, and that was done by an ex-Disney animator.
Right.
Don Bluth. He did all kind of like the earlier 70 films, like Robin Hood, and I think the last one he did was The Fox and Hound.
Oh, okay.
And then the next year he left and he did Secret of Nim.
Oh, wow.
And then after that he did all the Dragon's Lair games.
Right.
All the point and click ones from the 80s.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Jeez.
And then all that. So Disney was in its like lowest of lows. They got rid of everybody, new CEOs, new direction, new everything like that, and just. I feel like, if you had released this movie maybe 2 or 3 years later, it could have done a little bit better, because after, that you had Lion King, you had Beauty and the Beast, you had Aladdin, and even with live action, you even had like movies like Newsies and stuff like that were doing better.
Yeah,
so,
Batman. Deliver newspapers.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. That's one I haven't watched here, but I heard it was just okay.
It's kind of enjoyable. I mean, I watched it ages ago. It's kind of like similar to Newsies.
Oh, okay.
Not the subscriptions you need right now, but the ones that you deserve.
Yes.
Yep.
Indeed. But I mean, I think you should see Rocketeer. I mean, I do think it's a good film. It's not like amazing or anything, but it is an entertaining film, I think, from start to finish.
It's just a blast, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, and it is a fun family film for all ages, as I'd stated before, and yeah, I think you could definitely get some enjoyment, out of it. I think if you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of on board with that. I'm a little more of the opinion that you don't need to rush out to go see it. Yeah, it's like if it's on kind of thing. Like if I had to classify it, if it's on TV, go for it. Or if you stumble upon it on Netflix, go for it. Like no problem. But I don't feel like it's necessary to seek it out. But it's fun. Again, I don't want to like shit talk it too much, like, because it's not a bad movie, and I don't want to be like that.
No, I know what you're saying. Like, I agree that this isn't necessarily a life-changing film.
Yeah.
But if you sit down and watch it, you're not going to regret it.
No, yeah, you'll have a good time, and that's kind of the point of watching a movie, right? So, yeah.
I think it should be seen as well. And Andrew was saying before about the budget. Yeah, it made its money back. I think that's a great thing. Good job, guys. Here's your money back. Let's move on to something else. I'm kind of glad there wasn't a sequel that was even put into production, because I don't think you can go much further with the story when you consider the ending. Like, they went all out with that ending, and I think, great, let's close it off there. Let's go on to a different franchise.
How would you top
Like, how do you top Nazis?
Well, there was still the whole war, man. You could have had the Rocketeer end World War II.
Oh, you
That's
mean
what
like they
do.
could have had Mecha Hitler from like
Right.
the Wolfenstein games?
Exactly.
Shit.
Follow that.
Missed opportunity. God.
Follow that. I mean, put Rocketeer in Germany. That's what you do.
Oh my God, yeah, he's like fighting for the Allies. He like
Yes.
helps like
He's
win
like Captain
World War II.
America,
God
kind
damn
of.
it! You know what? Back on board. Back on board. If you go full ridiculous, like
He's
just
got to take it
way
like a
into the
nuclear-
rabbit hole.
Yeah, he's got to
I'm
like
into
take
it.
out some missile or something. He's got to fly up.
Oh
and,
my
like,
God, you should have done this
Right?
movie, right?
I could have done the sequel.
You
man.
should reboot it. Go up to Disney, like, hey guys,
Rocketeer. Let's bring it back.
let's do it.
Versus Hitler.
Well,
And it'll be a sequel, not a reboot. It's just going to continue. We'll get the same actor. We'll get everybody right.
yeah,
right
talks
from
of a
where it was.
remake have been dormant since 2012, so
Really?
maybe now's the time.
Wow. There you
Pitch
go.
him, man. Just like, hey, Disney, I know you own Marvel. I know you own Star Wars, and you got superheroes up the ass. But you know what? We got to bring some of your own original properties out.
It's not original. It's based on a comic book.
Well, I know they bought it a year after it came out, so you know what? It's Disney. It's theirs first. That's their first. I'm going to make a
Legally,
claim.
yes. Intellectually, no.
Yes, but I think this. I can't think of any other Disney superhero film prior to The Rocketeer. Like, you can make stretch arguments for like, well, Mary Poppins has powers, but
There's a fan theory that she's actually a Time Lord.
Yeah,
That's
that
great.
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But I in terms of like what we would expect out of a superhero movie, I think The Rocketeer was the first one for.
Mary Poppins is kind of a superhero because if you remember Guardians 2,
Yeah, I mean-
I'm Mary Poppins.
that's right. He's Mary Poppins, y'all. So
Yeah, I know that's what you can make the argument, but it's a bit of a stretch. I'll kind of give my final thoughts on this movie. I thought, I'm kind of with Andrew. I don't think you need to go out and see it, but if it's on, it doesn't hurt, or, you want to. I think this is more of a family movie than anything. I think it's good if your kids want to watch a superhero movie, but they're like 5 or 6 years old. You want to just show them something that's not too crazy or too complicated or whatever. Just something simple and fun. Just a like you said, a swashbuckling adventure, and then it's
introduce your kids to Nazis.
yeah. There you go. If you want to show some kids, that's before you get into Indiana Jones.
Kid-friendly Nazis.
Nazis
Kid-friendly
are bad.
Nazis.
Blow up their blimps.
These are yeah, exactly simple lessons.
And the un-Nazi'd the world.
Yeah.
And then you can follow it up with Iron Man. I mean, that's just...
Yeah. Actually, I was
Perfect.
thinking that some of those shots, I'm like, if they did Iron Man then, this is probably what it would look like.
Kind of.
Oh yeah.
I think this is almost like this superhero movie is almost kind of like the bridge between, because I think those flying sequences were like, okay, that is the best they can take the Superman flying special effects as high as they can take it.
Right.
Because the Superman movies in terms of their special effects kind of got worse and worse and worse. But then
Oh,
again, their
yeah.
budget got taken away, so the point where the fourth one was almost unwatchable. But yeah, and that was just when Terminator 1 was coming out as well. So that was like still like you had blue screen, but they've been doing blue screen since the 60s.
Sure.
So you didn't need a computer at the time. Still no real CGI. So I don't know, like it. The why I keep bringing up the special effects I thought were pretty decent is because it still looked real compared to even like the best CGI superhero movies where they fly, like Man of Steel. I thought the flying sequences in this movie looked way more convincing than anything in Man of Steel. In my opinion.
Okay.
No.
I'm gonna make Andrew mad
Yeah,
now.
I'm gonna make him mad. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I just thought it didn't take away from it. Where when you're looking
Yeah.
at those kind of movies, they're just CG fest. All you see is CGI.
And it's just like a mess.
Well, because the movie is kind of counting on your eye being drawn to that action, and it kind of markets itself based on, oh, look, we can make all these all these
Yeah.
images look real and come to life and like you're really there, but then they turn around and go for the lowest bidder, and it shows.
And I'm kind of with Alex. I'm kind of glad they didn't make any franchise out of this or make any sequels, because there's only so much you can do with the gimmick of a guy wearing a rocket pack.
Oh man,
Exactly.
I got many.
Oh, you can. Oh no, you could.
Then again,
but-
they made Iron Man.
But should you?
Yeah, but Iron Man has Tony Stark, who is like one of the most compelling, interesting characters
Sure,
in
yeah.
in any superhero movie. So you're drawn to him, whereas the Rocketeer, you know,
He's a pretty basic guy.
he's bland as shit.
Yeah.
That's what, like I said, he's got nothing going for him. So besides just the rocket, what else do you got? Nothing.
He's friends with
I
Howard
don't know. His
Hughes.
jacket was pretty cool.
He gained
Okay,
a friendship.
he has a cool jacket. I'll
He
give you
gained
that.
a friendship
His
with
hair.
Howard Hughes.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
That's
pretty
the
cool.
important
You got
thing.
Free plane, holla.
And that's pretty great. And it looks sexier too. So I mean,
Oh,
you
it did.
know.
Yeah, no, that plane. I was like, that's a stumpy looking plane. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't that? I was like,
It's
that's
for
cool.
speed, dude.
No, I know, but I hadn't seen planes like that in years. So I was just like, man, those things are small, but it was cool.
Well, yeah, when they're like boxing him in the first scene, and they put the little the
Yeah.
windshield on. It's just
Yeah.
like, can you like even see your hands? Like that windscreen, the cockpit top is like not much bigger than like your actual head.
Yeah.
Like your hands and arms are like tucked under this dashboard. Like, can you even see what's going on, or do you like have to feel it out? I don't know.
I mean, I'd rather ride in that than the fucking like unfinished model of a helicopter in Injustice for All. I mean,
Oh,
my
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Like,
so
shit, I
basically
saw
a
that. I was
bubble
like,
with a propeller.
pretty much.
And yet that
like
was
the cage. Like that was,
It's funny, but that was like how helicopters were made in like the 60s and 70s. You
I
know,
wouldn't be riding
Ridiculous.
no, just those light little bubble ones. You know, like you look at the 60s Adam West Batman, their helicopter plane is the exact
Jesus.
same thing, just a big bubble, except it's got bat wings on it, which is
Nice.
It looks
great.
like it's straight from the Jetsons.
It
man.
is. Oh my god, yeah. Fuck, we should watch the Jetsons movie.
Oh Jesus.
Oh God. I mean, I watched the Jetsons back in the day.
Did
but
you ever watch the movie?
I think I
didn't
did.
know
Yeah.
it was a-
Yeah, I did.
didn't
I
know it was
did.
a movie.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
do you remember Tiffany? You know, this 80s singer.
singer.
Yes.
I think we're alone
Oh
now.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, she voiced Judy Jensen in that movie for just that one thing, just because they need to get somebody. You look at all the trailers, like, and Tiffany
Tiffany,
as
yeah.
Judy, and she has her own song and shit.
Of course.
Yeah,
Great.
no, she was
Yeah.
hot shit for a little bit.
For a little bit, she was a one-hit wonder,
Yeah.
I think.
And then she later became Jokes and Ted and How I Met Your Mother.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was Mel Blanc's last movie. Was the Jetsons
Was it?
movie? Yeah, well, because he voiced Mr. Spacely, and actually, it was the last movie for the guy for Mel Blanc, and the actor who voiced George Jetson.
Yeah.
They both died before the movie came out.
Damn. They just couldn't take it.
Because they wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just die.
yeah.
All right. Well, you heard it here. You've heard our thoughts on the Rocketeer and also the Jetsons movie for some reason. So,
I will admit the Jetsons movie is not that good. It's pretty shit.
Foreshadowing? Maybe.
probably not.
No.
Anyways, there you have it. Go out and watch The Rocketeer. It's a good time. And yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.